O Mother Nui, stretch high above this valley. Your starry body is our glory. Then see the hawk of yonder Rahur quit, his fiery splendor, oh so mighty. He brings a light for all our weary souls. He makes the broken spirit whole.
Picture this. You're looking at an ancient, faded drawing from a 17th century alchemical manuscript that we pulled from today's source stack. In the center, there's a heavy wooden table, and on it lies this massive, bleeding dragon.
Yeah, and standing right over it, holding a dissecting knife, is a grinning human skeleton.
Right, and all around them is this complex laboratory glassware with the intertwining faces of the sun and the moon just, looking down from the sky above. Welcome to today's deep dive.
It's a truly jarring visual when you first see it. Like, it feels incredibly violent and chaotic.
Okay, let's unpack this, because looking through the historical and psychological texts we gathered, we're not actually looking at some macabre fantasy art.
No, not at all.
We are looking at a highly sophisticated, coded map of early modern science and deep human psychology.
Yeah, so to understand why this violent dissection is happening, we first need to look at the victim. In the alchemical tradition, this dragon represents the prima materia.
The prime matter.
Exactly, the prime matter. It's raw, undifferentiated potential. The texts describe it as a chimera with eagle wings, fish scales, and stag horns.
Which basically means it contains all the elements, right?
Right. Mythology also claims it's hoarding a luminescent pearl of ultimate power deep inside its belly.
I have to push back a little here, though. I mean, when we talk about dragons hoarding pearls and prime matter, it sounds a lot like superstitious magic.
Sure, I can totally see why you'd say that.
If I'm trying to translate this into something modern, is the dragon basically an unformatted hard drive?
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
Like just a massive block of chaotic data that has all the potential in the world, but it's totally useless until you format it and break it down.
That analogy holds up perfectly, especially because it wasn't just a metaphor for potential. What's fascinating here is that it was literal, coded chemistry.
Wait, actual chemistry?
Yeah. Alchemists were conducting empirical science but hid their recipes to protect their intellectual property. The texts mention a cold dragon that violently goes in and out of caves.
Okay, so what does that mean in chemistry terms?
Well, modern chemists cracked this code. It was their secret name for saltpeter.
Oh, wow, potassium nitrate.
Exactly.
Because saltpeter is an explosive chemical found naturally forming on the damp walls of cold caves. So the dragon is literally just a volatile chemical compound sitting on a lab table.
Which means the skeleton holding the knife isn't a monster. It's the scientist initiating the reaction.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because going through the astrology sources, I realized the skeleton isn't a generic Grim Reaper either.
Right, it has a very specific astrological identity.
It represents Saturn, the god of time and inevitability. It's the rational intellect using the harsh blade of time to surgically strip away useless matter to find the underlying structural truth.
And that stripping away brings us to the negredo, or, the blackening phase.
The blackening phase.
Yeah, this is where the physical chemistry aligns with Jungian psychology. Slaying and draining the dragon is the psychological equivalent of ego death.
It sounds pretty intense.
It is. It's the agonizing process of severing toxic illusions. Think of it like realizing the career you built your entire identity around is actually making you miserable.
So you have to let that old, unrefined version of yourself die to achieve integrated self-awareness.
Exactly.
But violently hacking apart your ego or, blowing up saltpeter on a table would be completely disastrous if it weren't happening inside a meticulously controlled environment.
Which brings us to the laboratory equipment in the image. You see the Athanor furnace and the hermetically sealed glass retorts.
Right, the glassware.
These aren't just background props. They explain how the process works. If you just burn a chemical, the vital vapors escape into the air.
They just vanish.
Yeah, so the hermetic seal physically traps the chaos, forcing the vaporized essence to condense and recombine into a purified state.
And meanwhile, the sun and moon above symbolize the necessary balance of conscious and unconscious forces overseeing this pressure cooker.
Absolutely.
So you need that pressurized containment to force the transformation.
Sir Isaac Newton actually practiced this. He would take dark, unrefined antimony ore, which he called the black dragon.
Wait, Isaac Newton called it a dragon?
Yes, and he'd heat it to extreme temperatures inside a sealed crucible. By trapping those gases and controlling the heat, he forced the antimony to separate from its impurities.
That's wild. I had no idea Newton did that.
Right. And out of that dark destruction, he extracted a brilliant silver star crystal, the Regulus.
So what does this all mean? The ultimate takeaway from our deep dive into this bizarre image is that chaos isn't a mistake.
No, it's the required raw material for your next operating system.
True transformation requires the complete dismantling of the old self.
That corruption is the absolute prerequisite for the renewal. You just can't reach the gold without breaking down the dragon.
We'll leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. Modern society is obsessed with comfort, constant optimization, and avoiding pain at all costs.
Oh, for sure.
But by constantly insulating ourselves from failure and discomfort, are we actually preventing ourselves from experiencing the necessary nigredo?
That's a great point.
If we never allow our old structures to break down, we might just be hoarding our potential, totally trapped inside the dragon.